Welcome into the All City Media at the Winter Meetings here in San Diego, hanging out, talking baseball, talking Chicago White Sox and their new starting pitcher. This is a big offseason for the White Sox. They've signed Mike Clevinger here, Ryan, Patrick, Jesse from PHNX. And you got a chance to talk to Mr. Clevinger today. We've had plenty of opportunities to talk with him here in the NL West when he comes to town with the Padres. But you talked to the White Sox latest starter today, 1-year deal, seems to be quite happy with his selection of the White Sox.
Yeah, well, so White Sox made it official today. Obviously, I think Ken Rosenthal may have broken that news a couple weeks ago, but that became official.
Ken Rosenthal makes it official.
Yeah.
Let's White Sox. Who do you think you are? Not Ken Rosenthal.
The White Sox tweeted it out today, and he's very happy being with the White Sox. He talked about he came up with the Indians, or he began his career with the Indians, 4 years, I want to say. So obviously was a division rival, knows the White Sox well. But one of the things he's very excited about is the mound. He talked about how he's very ready to go, and this is quote from Mike Clevinger. I said this from day one when I was with the Indians, before I thought I ever had a chance to play for the White Sox, because we were in division rivals, so I didn't think that was going to be a possibility. But that's one of my favorite mounds in all the big leagues, so I'm excited to get back to it. I don't even. How many pitchers think about the mounds? Like, I guess pitchers probably do, but like we don't think about mounds and how much pitchers might like these mounds or what. So when he said that, I was like, huh, like Ryan, that's a very funny reason.
Ryan, my top 5 mounds in order of MLB. Yeah, that is so strange, right? That is something that is just, you would think is perfectly similar everywhere you go. Well, we also learned earlier this season with some of the new restrictions and everything and rules that are coming, that not every infield is shaped the same way. Like the arc from first, second, and third.
There's a little margin for error there.
There is, and apparently 29 of the 30 teams were within that margin of error, so they're fine. So there's gonna be one team that's got to tweak some things up a little bit, but not the mound. He likes that. He enjoys that. Yeah, and he knows that pretty well from his time there. He's an interesting cat. Can you update us on the hair? Is it still long and
still
wavy?
Still long. It was on Zoom, so he was a little. It couldn't flow probably as well as he would like it to flow. The hair was still back there. You could see it. But I do want to say one more thing that he going back to why he chose the White Sox, why he liked it. He knows Ethan Katz. Ethan Katz, the White Sox pitching coach. He said he's known him since he was maybe 20, 21 years old. He said it was Ethan Katz first year of pro ball at the Angels. They hired him after coaching in high school in California. This is a quote, and I was fresh out of junior college, just got grafted. Had a little bit of a relationship there, so he knows a few people in the system or in the organization that may help him kind of get back to being who he was. Obviously, the Tommy John surgery affected him. He was able to come back this past season. Maybe velocity was down a little bit. Maybe some things left over from the just from the surgery and the recovery from that. But a new organization, a fresh, maybe even a prove it year for him, a 1-year deal. There's I believe an option in there as well. But maybe a kind of a prove it year for him, that this is a good change of scenery, a good year of full health, hopefully, and he likes the mound. That's what it comes back down to.
He likes the pitching coach. I mean, he's been around the block. That's the funny thing. A lot of people might not realize. Like, he was originally drafted and developed a little bit by the Angels and was acquired by the Guardians for Vinny Pistano. Shout outs to Vinny Pistano there. Career didn't last a lot longer with the Angels after that. Great deal for Cleveland. And then, after he kind of establishes himself, make that gigantic deal with the Padres, going from Cleveland to San Diego. Cleveland ends up netting, half their postseason roster. Gabriel Arias, Owen Miller, Josh Naylor, Cal Quantrill. There's another name I feel like I'm leaving out because they got so many guys. Austin Hedges, another player. So they basically took a left-handed reliever in Vinny Pistano, who only had like another 2 years left in his career, for guys that are still impacting their roster to this day. And Clevinger obviously is that connective piece for both of them. But it was obviously disappointing, like you said, because somewhat of a prove it year, because Padres gave up a lot to acquire him in that division to really that was the start when you realized, whoa, the Padres are really trying to challenge.
Josh Naylor was in that, wasn't he? Josh Naylor was in that. very good.
Yeah.
Off topic, but he's really good.
No, he's great.
But yeah, so that's
Padres
part of a haul.
they believed in him, and they said, well, you know what? He's got a couple years left of team control. There's also a club option for the 2023 season. This is going to be great. And it didn't really work out. You know, the Tommy John surgery obviously derailed some things. And they said, you know what? It's just better to just cut bait right now and cut weight and get rid of Clevinger here. And that's obviously much more fortunate for the White Sox, for a guy that is trying to, you know, reestablish himself there just a little bit and go back out on the market and maybe get another slightly longer deal than just 1 year. But he was always entertaining to watch in the NLS. We can say that for sure.
Yeah, Bob, I don't know if entertaining is the word that Bob Brenly would use, but the Diamondbacks color analyst, there's a bit of a beef between him and Mike Clevinger that developed last year. But yeah, I do think it's interesting. Like this is $12 million for a guy who was not particularly effective last year and didn't pitch that many innings last year either. Obviously, Clevinger does have a track record and, you know, was extraordinary for a couple of years in Cleveland. So you can understand that, you know, there's a decent ceiling here that, you know, the White Sox probably feel he has a shot to reach. But I feel like that's a trend that we've kind of seen around the league so far as the markets begin to develop, particularly on the starting pitching side. You've got Clevinger getting $12 million. And yes, it's just 1 year, but $12 million is a decent salary for a guy who was not even a one-win player last year. And then you look at a guy like Matthew Boyd, right, who just signed, who got $10 million, I believe, and hardly pitched last year himself. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing teams show a lot more willingness to go to a higher dollar amount as long as it's only 1 year. And I'm guessing that was a big part of the White Sox calculus here.
And here, the official terms of the agreement, this is actually from the White Sox Twitter. I've never seen like another team Twitter account like actually tweet out terms of contracts.
You're right.
Like salary figures?
Yeah, typically
oh, wow. Yeah.
This is from the White Sox.
Interesting.
Under terms of the agreement, Clevinger will receive $8 million in 2023 with a mutual $12 million option for 2024 that includes a $4 million buyout. So he won't make a guaranteed $12 million,
right?
But that turns into a mutual option for 2024. So again, it goes back to it's a prove it year for him.
Yeah.
If he has a great year, they may decide on that $12 million for 2024. But he gets to go out and prove that he's fully healthy. He's back, can get comfortable with the grind of a full season, and can the White Sox. The White Sox have been in a position where if the core gels the way it should be, they should be able to win. They didn't do that last year, and that's kind of something he mentioned. He's like, it feels like they have the pieces, but it just didn't gel, and it didn't work out the way everyone wanted to this past season. But he feels like there's, the pieces are there to have a good roster. He feels like he basically said, I feel like I can come in and do some good things for this roster, and that we have the pieces there to be a good ball club. That's one of the things that he basically said.
Yeah. I mean, that's somewhat of a vote of confidence to Pedro Grifol. So yeah, I'll go play for this guy. Not that, obviously, if you don't sign with the team, you have an issue with the manager or whatever, but you're like, no, I hear good things about this guy. Again, would have known him about him a little bit with his time in Kansas City. So there is that. The mutual option is always so funny. And in this deal, because as you said, $8 million with a $12 million option for next year, but it's a $4 million buyout. So basically we're talking about $8 million for next year. So he's got a guaranteed $12 million. And if they want to keep him around, it's only going to be another $8 million for next year, which almost he's getting paid less. So he's not going to do what they think, but it's going to be enough to be like, we'll keep you around for this short amount. And he's like, well, crap, I don't think I can do any better on free agency. It's kind of a weird deal how it's structured.
Well, and the fact that it's a mutual option, like you kind of figure either Mike Clevinger is going to come out and he is going to prove it, in which case he's not taking his side of that mutual option, or he's not, and the White Sox aren't digging their side. Like, I don't really see.
We're happy with this marriage.
I don't even think that's really much of a possibility.
It was a weird, like reading it. It's weird, like option terms of the contract kind of thing. But the White Sox do what they got to do, and Mike Clevinger did what he's got to do. That the hope obviously is that it works out, but at the worst, it's a 1 year contract for either one of them, and if that doesn't work out on a mutual option for 2024, they can both figure their stuff out after, right? So it's again a prove it contract for him. It's kind of a prove it contract for the White Sox, and that they want obviously have to play well, but they would also have to want to bring him back, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, when I saw it, I looked at it, I'm like, this is a relatively good signing for the White Sox. Like a pitcher,
I think so.
I mean, if it's $12 million, like that's not doesn't break the bank. And a guy that has been very good in the past. I mean, again, we talked about the velocity ticking down a little bit, but he also mentioned on his little media availability today that he does feel better. He doesn't think that's going to be an issue next year. One thing is that the White Sox have all righties, but hope they might figure that out eventually. But it felt like a good signing for the White Sox. And we'll just have to see if he can have, again, that prove it year, that bounce back year, and kind of prove if he's a guy that can help that, this team actually win in a window where they can do that.
I had an old friend of mine who was a former general manager once say to me, Patrick, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal.
Yes.
And that's just the pearls of wisdom that we are giving out here that no one has ever heard of.
There is such a bad thing as a bad 1-year deal with a mutual option for the year after, right?
Do you know my buddy? We're going to talk off air about my old GM friend that knows all these kind of things. We got plenty more pearls of wisdom coming out all week long here in San Diego at the 2022 Winter Meetings, All City Media. Thanks for joining us.